Shabbat Shalom, my Israelite brothers and sisters. So first of all praises to our Elohim and to his only begotten Son, Yehoshua. So this is not going to be a lesson, just a discussion. I want to talk about this recent school shooting that happened in Florida. Now, I don't know if y'all noticed, saints, but there's been a big increase in terror among these heathens, especially when it's coming to these school shootings. Now, the media is putting out that this was the 18th school shooting this year in 2018. But that's a lie, because other sources are saying that this is the 28th shooting this year. Now, one thing I find very interesting is that all these shootings combined, starting with Columbine a while back ago until this present day, the majority, or I would say 99% of these people who are being killed in these school shootings are heathens. So you may be asking yourself, okay, what does this have to do with anything? Well, in the times that we're living in, when we're seeing all this destruction fall upon the heathens, it would make sense that the Most High is fighting for his people. Now, I know you're going to have some people that's going to say, oh, that's racist. You shouldn't say stuff like that. But hey, this is reality. This is what's happening. And I want to prove it to you through scriptures of the things that are happening to these heathens and why they're happening and increasing the way they are, because there's some things that I picked up just over the years just by observing, and I want to see if you pick the same thing up as well. Now, one of the trends I've noticed is every time there's some kind of mass shooting or mass killing of heathens, especially white people, so-called whites, there's always a candlelight service, if y'all haven't noticed. Every time, never fails. Now, all the school shootings they've done candlelight service. The heathens will get together and they'll just do candlelight services and feel sorry for these people and blah, 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 and all that. But let me ask you this. Was there ever a candlelight service for Black Wall Street? Was there a candlelight service for all the blacks who are constantly being shot down in the streets by the police? Was there ever a candlelight service for all the black babies who were thrown to alligator as alligator bait? Was there ever a candlelight service at the White House in remembrance of slavery and the abuse that our people went through in slavery? And see, they never want us to talk about that. Oh, you can't talk about slavery. We got to keep that quiet. But yet we can remember the Holocaust, which was not no doggone 6 million Khazars. It probably wasn't even no more than 300,000. And by the way, that's all bogus about these Khazars dying, 6 million of them. That's a lie by the public. It was a propaganda to try to fit themselves into our prophecy. So these heathens have been brainwashed by their own leaders to believe that they're so righteous, that they're better than our people, and they look down on our people at the same time. But see, this is how the system is, and this is what media does to the system. It trains the whole world to look at so-called blacks in a negative light. So when something happens to their own people, they get together and they have a candlelight service. But when something happens to so-called black people, it's due justice. Oh, they got it coming. Oh, we don't think nothing of that. That's nothing. They're nobody. But that's how they view us in this world. And that's why everything is starting to reverse, brothers and sisters. The Most High is taking us up out of captivity. He is bringing us back to our identity. And the main thing that's scaring the hell out these heathens, especially the world leaders, that we're getting back to these laws, commandments, and statutes. That's what's going to break the bank, brothers and sisters. And, I've been talking about this stock market, and I think this thing is going to crash this year. I could be wrong. But I remember in 2008, I was in California. I was in the military then. And I remember the stock market crashed. Here, 10 years later, 2018, and here I am going back to California. And the last time it crashed, it was around June of 2008. So this thing is going to crash, brothers and sisters. And when it crashes, it's going to crash hard. And guess who it's going to affect? It's going to affect these heathens, especially the wealthy ones, because it's not going to affect us. Where we going to go? We're already at the bottom. How's it going to affect us? See, and that's the thing with the heathens. They can't handle stress. They're not built for that because they've been living off the backs of our forefathers for thousands of years. And now that their white privileges is coming to an end, they can't handle it. They're going crazy, killing themselves, overdosing on heroin. I mean, it's crazy, y'all. And there's no end in sight. But I want to share a verse with you, a couple of them, because it's going to explain the increase of fear in these heathens. All right, let's go to Luke chapter 21 and verse 26. I'll show you what it says here. It says, men's heart failing them for fear. What does that mean? Men's heart failing them for fear. So when you look at these heathens today, these people are scared out of their mind because they can't explain what's going on. So instead of trying to cope with it, they're getting hooked on heroin, which is basically legalized opioids. That's all it is. Let's continue. And for looking after those things which are coming on the earth, for the powers of heaven shall be shaken. Now, when it says for the powers of heaven shall be shaken, it's talking about these world leaders. Because what's getting ready to happen? What's happening around the world? These world leaders are preparing for war. So they're getting all their forces together, preparing for war. So I want to read this part again, the first part. Men's heart failing them for fear. So these people are going crazy, y'all. And they're killing themselves. The rate of suicide is increasing at an alarming rate. Drug overdose is increasing. You see these school shootings that are happening, and they're getting worse and worse. I mean, it's crazy. And see, this is something that our people have never done, brothers and sisters. We don't do the kind of stuff like this. We don't get stressed out like this and start committing suicide. Yeah, you have so-called blacks who commit suicide, but it wasn't always like that. It wasn't like that until we started connecting with the heathens. We started becoming like the heathens. And that's the problem. Now, I don't know if y'all remember the DC sniper, that time that happened back in 2003. Like, that was like one of the only cases you ever saw of someone black who would go on a shooting spree. But then when you look at his history, he was connected to those heathens. That didn't come from us. We don't do stuff like that. We don't go around molesting children and all that kind of stuff. Homosexuality never existed in our communities. That didn't come about until we started being around these heathens. That's their thing. That's what they do. And these mass school shootings, I mean, these heathens, they'll go home and they'll shoot their whole family members and then go out and shoot everybody else and then go shoot themselves. That's just the thinking they have. It's madness. Now, let me tell you why the Most High says that we should not have anything to do with these heathens. And y'all think the Most High is playing around, but so many of our people, they love their oppressors. They love their enemies for some reason. They must have some kind of crack syndrome or something where they're just so attracted to these heathens. But let's go to Jeremiah chapter 10 and let's look at verse 2. It says, thus saith Elohim, learn not the way of the heathens. What does it mean to learn not the way of the heathens? That means all the heathens' ways, everything that they do. They're telling us that the laws and commandments are done away with. They pumping our people with all these steroids, vaccines, and medications, and all kind of stuff. They just out there. They worship idols. They're worshiping all kind of stuff. But here we are. We're following right after them. We want to move into their neighborhoods. We want to live right next to them. Anytime they move out the city, we move out the city. They move back into the city, we want to move back into the city. I don't know. Our people just been so attracted to these heathens. So it says, thus saith Elohim, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. And it's these heathens who are all into that kind of stuff. They take our scriptures and twist it backwards and forward. And here come our people falling right behind them, believing every bit of it. Crazy. All right, let's get another one. Let's look at Proverbs chapter 3 and verse 31, and let's see what it says here. It says, envy thou not the oppressor, and choose none of his ways. Let me read that again, just in case y'all didn't get that. Envy thou not the oppressor, and choose none of his ways. Now, what are some of the ways of the oppressor? Well, for one, they love money. The Bible says that the love of money is the root of all evil. But yet, here comes our people wanting to be just like them. Now, I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with having money, but the love of money is the root of all evil. So remember that. We want to dress like them. We want to worship their gods like they do. Their pagan holidays, Christmas, Thanksgiving, New Year's, Halloween. And you know what's so sad is that our people will try to outdo the heathens in their own wicked pagan worship. It's sickening the way our people will do. So Proverbs 3:31, envy thou not the oppressor and choose none of his ways. We shouldn't be following after the heathens, brothers and sisters, because the more we connect ourselves with these heathens, the more we're going to become like them. And that's why our people are committing this stuff. That's why there's suicide rate that's growing among our people. That's why you're starting to see more all kind of stuff, homosexuality, all that amongst our people is because they're getting it from the heathens, because by beholding become change. And that's what's happening. That's why the Most High is constantly separating us from these heathens before he destroys them. So we got to remember that, brothers and sisters. We should have nothing to do with these heathens. Now, of course, we got to work around them unless it's work related. But outside of that, we shouldn't have anything to do with them. Plain and simple. Now, let's get back to the school shooting that just happened this past week in Florida. Now, I find it very, very interesting that not one single Hebrew died in this tragedy. Now, you got to ask yourself the question, okay? Because a lot of heathens have been watching us very closely. They know that we're waking up. They know that we're getting back to Torah. And so don't think that the heathen has not been watching us, brothers and sisters. They have. They're watching our every move, and they know that there's a certain protection around Yah's chosen people. Now, they're not going to come out and admit it and just say it up front because that's not in their nature to do that. And I'm going to prove it to you in the scriptures. But it's interesting because the Most High is fighting for his people. And every time we see a mass shooting like this, it always involves the heathen. You know, and then they do their little candlelight service. Now, I'm sure that this heathen devil who did all this stuff, who came in there and shot him up, I guarantee you they're going to probably build a case for him, and they're going to say that he was mentally disarranged and he was not right in the head. You know, the heathens are going to take care of the heathens. So we already know the story behind that. You know, they're going to put him in a nice little federal prison or something. But, you know, that's what they do. And the so-called weapons that they have, that these heathens have, that they were planning on using against us, because, you know, the media likes to put out that all black people are just bad and they're killers and robbers. They like to break in your homes and steal your cars. So all your heathens, especially your so-called white people, they need to go out and get guns and protect themselves from the big black bad man, all that jive. And so here they are. They got all these guns now. Now they're starting to get stressed out because their white privileges are starting to fade away. Well, hey, why not use the gun on myself? Well, in the meantime, let me go kill up some folks first, and then I'll shoot myself. This is what it's coming down to. And this is how it's going down. And it's going to get better, brothers and sisters. We're going to see more of these wicked heathens just go crazy on themselves. Remember that first verse we read? You know, men's heart will fail them for fear. This is why their hearts are failing them right now, because they don't know what is going on. They can't grasp it because they don't get it. They cannot see the word of the Most High through our forefathers' eyes because they don't have those eyes. They're not the people. The laws were not given to them. They were given to the Most High's chosen people. That's why they can't understand the things that are going on. That's why they're bugging out, trying to store food and all kind of stuff, you know, because they're scared. You know, they're shaking in their boots and they don't know what to expect. But we don't have to worry about that kind of stuff because the Most High is going to be our protection. We don't got to worry about trying to stock up 3 years of food and building underground bunkers and all that kind of stuff. Y'all's people, we've never done that before. We never ever. There's not a history in the history throughout the word of the Most High. We've never just stockpiled stuff and feared for our lives. We just followed the word of the Most High and trusted in His will, and He always protected us. Another trend I've noticed for a very long time is that how when things happen to our people, especially in the past, when it comes to slavery, the treatment of our people, the heathens just don't give a damn. Why do you think that is? There's a reason for that, but yet our people continue to run after them. It's just like what our people get shot down in the streets by these wicked police officers. Our people can't understand, and they're crying and moaning because why did he shoot my boy? And they're so upset about it is because they've put their trust in this white, blue-eyed Jesus. And so when a white person kills a black person, they can't understand it because they see Jesus. That's what they see. And it's subconscious, brothers and sisters. Whether you want to admit it or not, it's been ingrained in our people's mind for so long, because when those chains and those yokes of iron came off our necks, we were destroyed, completely destroyed as a people. And that's why a lot of you all, and we all are, have come out of Christianity at some point of time, and it just didn't all come off of us in one night. And this Christianity thing, it's one hell of a drug. And it takes time to wear off. And our people now are just coming out from that, So these heathens, they have no conscience of what their forefathers did to our forefathers. And as a matter of fact, they hate the fact that you bring up slavery. They don't want you bringing nothing up like that, because then they think they'll say that it's racism. Well, you shouldn't bring that up because that's racism. But we know what it is. It's guilt. And they know what they've done was wrong. And not only did they know that it was wrong, they're not going to apologize for it. You think that they're going to make an apology for what their forefathers did to ours? Ain't a chance. Talking about reparations? Oh, no. Y'all not getting no reparations. Where y'all going to get reparations for it then? How come we can't get reparations? See, that's their attitude. So they're very unapologetic. And I'm going to show you a verse that proves that. All right, so let's go to Jeremiah chapter 10. And we're going to look at verse 5. It says, "They are upright as the palm tree, but speak not. They must needs be born, because they cannot go. Be not afraid of them, for they cannot do evil, neither also is it in them to do good." Now, when you read this whole chapter in Jeremiah chapter 10, 5, it's talking about the wicked heathen. But I want you to look at this last part. It says, "Be not afraid of them, for they cannot do evil, neither also is it in them to do good." So do you know what this is really saying, brothers and sisters? This is very deep. Now, this is not talking about that the heathens are innocent. It's talking about their attitude, because they feel like they can never do wrong at all. Now, when you look at America, you look at all the countries that America went in and just toppled, bombed them, killed the people, but yet they always portray themselves as the righteous one. And that's what this is talking about. It is not in them to do good or bad, because they have no conscience. They don't get it. And no matter how much you try to remind the heathens what their forefathers did, they just don't get it. They don't see it. And they look at you like you're crazy. Well, what do we got to apologize for? We ain't done nothing. But that's their attitude. But yet, they're quick to put sanctions on other countries like North Korea and other places. But yet, they're the most hypocritical country in the world. So that's what this verse is talking about. And it's deep. And that's the way they are. That's the way these heathens do, because they're quick to judge everybody else. But when it comes to themselves, oh, we didn't do nothing wrong. What are you talking about? But that's just their mentality. And that's why when you see all these things happening to these heathens, they don't get it. They don't know why it's happening to them. They just think that it's just coincidence that it's happening, because in their minds, they just can't think of the wrongs that they're doing. They don't understand why destruction has come upon this earth in the first place. They're living like they're going to be here for another 500 years. And that's just their attitude. That's their mentality. Now I'm going to show you a prime example of what this verse is talking about we just read. Some of you are old enough to remember the crack epidemic in the early 80s, where some of our people were strung out on crack. and they were leaving their children alone in places so they can support their crack habit. But let me tell you what the heathens did, so-called white people. They built prisons, more prisons, so they can arrest all the blacks who were strung out on crack to throw them in prisons. No, they didn't build no treatment centers. Now, some heathens will try to say, oh yeah, they built treatment centers. No, they didn't. That's a lie. It's bogus. The CIA purposely put drugs into the black community because we were becoming too successful. And you can do the research behind that. That's a fact. So the plot was to build more prisons and to get drugs into the community, and that's exactly what they did. And that's the mentality of these heathens. And see, in their mind, that's normal. That's what they wanted to see, because when they saw people strung out on crack, that was like the norm for them. And that's what they expected. But as soon as the table started turning, when these so-called white people, these heathens, started getting addicted to heroin, then they started building treatment centers. They didn't pick them up and throw them in jails. Yeah, they might have threw a few of them in there just to get their little quotas. But for the majority of them, they built treatment centers. And when the treatment centers didn't work, because these heathens were so hooked on heroin, they couldn't stop. So no matter how many treatment centers they built, it wasn't working. So they went to the next phase. They had to legalize heroin. So when they legalized heroin, all they did was legalize it and called it opioids. That's all they did. And now all this stuff is backfiring on these heathens. And they're dying by the hundreds a day. And the media is not going to put that in the news. They're going to hide that. They're going to downplay it. They're saying that it's 100 a month that's overdosing on these opioids. But it's a lot more than that. I guarantee you that. And you can do the research for yourselves. And we all know what's going on. So this is the prime example I'm talking about when this verse said it is not in them to do good or bad, because they have no conscience. They don't get it. So they're the biggest hypocrites ever, because when it comes to their own people, they try to make every justification to try to do all they can to help them. But when it comes to our people, they look at it as differently. This is okay. They're criminals anyway, so they deserve to go to jail. But their people are doing worse things than our people. They're the biggest drug addicts on the face of the earth. But yet they don't see it like that. And that's what I'm talking about. That's that consciousness that they just don't get it for some reason. And that's why the Most High is going to destroy these wicked heathens. All right, I'm going to show you something right quick. Let's go to Ezekiel chapter 25 and verse 17. Ezekiel 25 and verse 17. And it says, "And I will execute great vengeance upon them with furious rebukes." Y'all hear that, saints? With furious rebukes. "And they shall know that I am Elohim when I shall lay my vengeance upon them." Now, we're only seeing just a little smidget of what's happening to these heathens across the world. And it's going to increase. It's going to increase so much that they're going to feel the pressures on their back so much that they're going to have to confess. Because right now, they can't see their wrongs. They think they're in the right, and they don't get what they have been doing to Yah's chosen people. Well, a lot of them know. A lot of them do know they get it, but they pretend like nothing's going on because they're very good at pretending, and that's what they do. But the Most High is going to help them to remember by putting his foot up their asses. So when I see school shootings like this, which are getting worse year by year, and I'm talking increasingly worse, I'm not sad at all. It just lets me know how close our Hamashiach is to delivering his people. And I rejoice at this, because this lets me know that the Most High is fighting for his people. We should count it a blessing that we are still considered the apple of Yah's eyes. And we are the generation that are living in this time that will get the opportunity to see the full destruction of our enemies. Even King David prayed for the destruction of his enemies. Just go read the book of Psalms. You'll see it all through the book of Psalms about prayers for the destruction of our enemies. And this is something to rejoice about, brothers and sisters. It just gets me excited, because when I see all these things going on around us, Yah's people waking up by the tens of thousands. We're getting back to Torah. And the wicked are watching. They are watching us every move. They're trying every desperate thing to try to stop us. Now, I went and saw this Black Panther movie, and I thought it was really good, but there's a lot of coded information in that. And I'm not going to say anything because I know some of y'all probably haven't saw it yet. But I will say this. The powers that be, they are desperate to keep our identity hidden. They want the whole world to believe that we're Hamites. I'm telling you, brothers and sisters, they want the whole world to believe that, but it's not working. It is not working. We are not Hamites. We're Israelites. We were sold by Hamites into this wicked land. So we have a lot to rejoice about. And I'm just happy to be amongst my brothers and sisters that are waking up, getting back to Torah, and doing all we can to prepare for our Hamashiach's coming. And it's going to be a rejoicing day to see that. And the times that we're living in, man, I'm telling you, I mean, we're living in some scary times, but at the same time, they're exciting times because we're going to see things that our forefathers wished they could have been alive to see. And this is going to be a sight. You know, the only thing they're going to be able to see is just a recording of it. But we get to see it live, firsthand, and we're already seeing all the destruction happening upon our enemies. And this is just light stuff. We ain't seen nothing yet. And I truly believe the stock market is going to crash this year. Like I said, I could be wrong, but I feel it. Something's up. The public's not telling us anything. Because, you know, if they were to tell the people would just go panic. They would go in panic mode. So the Most High knows what he's doing, though, and he's going to watch over his people. So with that being said, brothers and sisters, I just wanted to talk about the rising fear among the heathens. And so I pray that you got the points that was brought out. And I'm going to leave you with Revelation 14:12. Here's the patience of the saints. Here are those that keep the commandments of Elohim and have the faith of Yehoshua. So I say shalom and stay strong.